Welcome to part 2 of scraping the data we need for our quarterback forecasting model. Make sure that if you're interested, you follow along. We'll be putting out videos consistently over the next couple weeks so we can get this out and ready for you guys. So if you haven't seen the last video, make sure to check it out. I'll make sure to link it up here. But last time we were able to get the links for these box scores. So just as a refresher, this is what the box score page looks like. And for Tom Brady specifically, we want to know, did he play? And if so, grab all these stats for him. Grab all the stats. So let's go ahead and start it off by looking at an example. I think in this game, Tom Brady got a couple reps in here. So we're going to want to figure out how we can look at this specific table, the passing, rushing, and receiving table. Look at these players, find out if Tom Brady's name is there, and grab the stats if so. So let's start off with this. So we're going to go ahead and inspect element, and it's going to pull it up. So we're going to look at it. First thing we want to look at is where do we get this table? So we're going to look at the table actually, and you can see it's under this class. It's under this table, and the class is sortable stats table. So we always want to try with the class first, just because that typically works best. Sometimes it won't work, like you saw in the last video. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this code and we're going to make a new cell, paste it in here. And so our URL here is going to be, so this is going to be our link. We'll copy it and we will replace this link here. So you can see that this is specifically the game against the Jets back in 2001. So we want to see if we can pull up this table. So let's take a look. So if I run this, we're just going to hit enter, and we're going to open a new cell, and we're going to check out what soup looks like. So we're going to see if we can find class equals, and then the class, I already copied something else, so we'll grab it again. Come back here, class equals that. Let's see if anything comes up. And something does come up, and you can see it's the passing, rushing, and receiving table, which is the caption here. And if we look back here, passing, rushing, receiving is, in fact, the caption. So we got the table we need. So now we want to look at each of these rows and kind of iterate through, but it might actually be easier if we want a little thing that'll come in handy when we find a non-Tom Brady in the set. So we're going to do, we're going to change this all to a string. So making it a string just means that it's now just a text item. So if I print out that, see how it puts it all like this, and I can put this little Boolean expression. So I'll say Tom Brady. So is Tom Brady in here? And it's going to say true, which means that Tom Brady's name is in fact in this stats table. We can do a quick check here. So what I'll do is I will add this, and I'll change it to the Cincinnati game where Tom Brady's name was not there. And let's see if we can ensure that if Tom Brady's name is not there, it won't. So we're going to look at soup here, take exactly the same command, and let's see if it's in this soup. And now it's saying false because if you remember, if we go back to this, Patriots and Bengals, Tom Brady's name is not there. It was only Drew Bledsoe. So now we have a way to determine whether or not Tom Brady's stats are in here. So for now, I'm just going to delete these because we don't need it right now. We're going to add this thing that says if Tom Brady is in that table. So if only if that's true, and I'll rerun this just so that we get the new updated soup. So we'll take out this game. We'll look back here. We want to find Tom Brady's name here. You can see it has his name as like a text thing, but the thing with Beautiful Soup is that we typically only are able to look at tags. I wasn't too clear last time, but when you hover over a specific item on the HTML side, like I have on this TR right here, and again, TR just means row. As you look down these, you can see on the left-hand side, as I move down on the right-hand side, the left-hand side is kind of iterating through. So that's kind of going to be our way to see what we're actually looking at. And if I look specifically at the name, it's there, and then if I look at these stats, it kind of iterates through and specifically shows me those stats. Okay, so next step is we want to specifically find Tom Brady's. This is going to be a little inefficient just because this is the way I know how to do it. I'm sure there's an easier way to find it, but I'm just going to go for it with how I know. So what we're going to do is, the first thing we want to do is we want to take this. So we're going to take soup.find.sortable stats table. We're going to look at that. So we have this table. We're going to look at, we want specifically these TRs, but you can see if you look under the table, there's some other TRs here. We can make it a little more efficient by looking specifically at the body of this table. So we'll also add .find tbody. If we run that, we would have the body, so we would have all of this, everything under here written out for us. And so now what we'll do is we'll go back here, and then what we want to find is all the rows. And again, remember the rows tag is just TR, and we want to find all of them. And we're going to call this rows. And so if I run this code and I print out rows, what I'm going to get is a list of each of these rows. So you can see like TR is the first tag, and then it says, you know, players T test V, right? This is for Vinny Testaverde, right? New York Jets. And if I look back here, Vinny Testaverde, obviously, because he's the first player on this list. So what we want to do is with the rows, we want to look at each row. So we're going to do another for loop. So we're going to say for row in rows. And what we could do, just for sake of showing off what's happening, we can say print row dot text, and then also print a space. So if I run this, right, it's going to show me all the things that it's picking up, and you can kind of see it's all over the place because all the stats are just getting printed as text and blah blah blah. So we're going to do a little cleaning up and formatting, but just for sake of showing what's happening, we want to also just say, we want to add something like within this. We can say if, and this is Tom Brady we're talking about, if Tom Brady in row.text, then we want to print it, right? And so now it's only going to print out, or it should only print out Tom Brady's, right? And so now we're only looking at Tom Brady and his stats, and we're not going to print it anymore. What we're going to do is we're going to look in here. So now we have this flag for when Tom Brady's name is in there, right? How do we grab these stats? And it's pretty easy. So we're going to look back at Tom Brady. Now you can see within this TR tag, we're looking at all these. The first is the TH tag, and then all of these TD tags. We are going to look at all these, and I think there's actually a way to grab all these stats at once. So I'm going to do a quick Google search, and we're going to say how to grab data stat beautiful soup. Okay, and I've definitely I've Googled this before. Obviously, I don't remember everything. It's this .get data stat thing. So we can look through each of these. So we're going to say, so within that row, within that TR, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at all the TDs. So we're going to call these TDs equals row.find all TD. And now we're going to iterate again. So we're going to say for TD in TDs. So we're going to look at each individual thing. We're going to say print TD, and then we have that in our clipboard, get data stat. And we're also going to print td.text. And text just means anything that's just within these bars. So you can kind of see that 5 is in between, and it's kind of just written as text. So what we'll do is that's the text. So let's see if this works. If I run this. So this worked. Let's make it look a little nicer. So we're going to say print TD, and we're going to also add colon, and we'll add td.text. And now you can see it kind of starts looking like this. So now we say team New England, pass completions, blah, 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 blah. So now we have all this for one game. And this kind of goes back to why we're scraping instead of just copy pasting stuff. And again, I'm sure there's more efficient ways to do this, but just for the way that I know it best, we're going to just go with it. We have these links, right? And so now what we're going to do here, instead of, well, we're also going to print it. We're just going to call it box score link equals this whole thing. So again, the same thing we printed out last time. And we're also going to say, we're going to grab all these guys, paste them in, and now the URL, instead of this URL every time, we're going to say that's the box score link. Okay, so each time so now it's gonna iterate through these guys, and I'll run this to change the soup function. And so now it's gonna use this to grab every single one of these links, go to it, and now what we want to do is we want to copy all of this, format it, and so now what we have is this loop that's going to go through each of these links. It's going to grab the data we want, and it's going to print out Tom Brady's stats. And then at the end, what we'll do as well is we'll print a blank spot so you can see. So it's going to happen quickly, so pay attention. But when I run this, the first thing that's going to happen is going to print out this link, and it's going to print out all these stats. It's going to print out this link. It's actually going to print out this link, and then it's going to print no stats. So we'll also add this thing in the else statement. So if Tom Brady, so we got to line this up. So we'll say else. If Tom Brady is not in that, we're going to have it print out Tom Brady not in stats, period. All right, let's run it and see what happens. Probably throw an error, but let's see if we can get lucky on the first try. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, I forgot to print out box score link. So we are going to print box score link. Let's try it again. Oh, it's having an issue because the soup variable changed. So what I'm going to do is I'll put them all in the same thing. So that's the issue also with just my naming convention, the fact that I named soup so many things and renamed them in different spots. The computer got confused there. So I'm going to run it again and we'll see how it goes. So you can see in the first game he's not in the stats, second game he is, and now we have all of Tom Brady's stats from every single game in 2001, right? And if you recall, we also have all the links for every year that Tom Brady played, right? So what I'm going to do here is we're going to create a list. So we're going to call this New England, we'll do that years, and we're going to make it an empty list, and we're going to print the link, and we're going to add that link to this list. And so now I'll take out the print statement, and instead I'll just, at the end of this loop, I'll do NWE years. And if I run that, oh, years. If I run that, now I have this as a list. So now what I can do is take all of this, tab it over once, and we will drop this down. And I want to say 4. We'll just call it, we'll just call it year. For year in NWE years. So now instead of looking at just 2001, we're also going to be looking at every single year that Tom Brady played, right? So it's going to go through each of these links, replace that URL, and one other thing we'll do is we will build a variable just so that we can grab this year, and the team name's already going to be there, so now we have the year. So we're going to say, and if we can do a practice here, so if I look at 0, it's this. I can do this function called split, and I'm going to split it on the slashes, and I'm going to take the last one, and I'm also going to split it again on the period, and then I'll take the first thing. So if I run this, it's just going to give me 2001, or it should. Let's see. There it is. So now what I can do is I'll say year num, just for a year number, and we'll take this whole thing, and we'll put it here, and we'll change this to year. So now we have the year number, and we'll also, before we print anything, we'll print year num, and we'll also add a thing here. We're going to say year. So now when I run this, it's going to look at every single one of these links. It's going to look at every single one of Tom Brady's games. And then within all of those games, it's going to grab every single stat that he has. So let's run it right about now. So it's going to run for a while, and the way you can tell things are running in Jupyter Notebook is this way. I'll scoot this out a little bit. And it's still running, so if I go all the way down, you can see it's continuing to add more data as I scroll. So like I really can't hit the bottom because it's going through and just grabbing so much stuff. So it's still only at 2004, 2005 now. We'll just let this run, and I'll be back in a second. Alright, so it finished running. So now you see we have all this data all the way up till the 2021 season. This video's gone on pretty long, so I'll stop it here. In the next video, we'll go through how we're going to make all this data into a nice looking Excel file, a CSV, in a nice format. And we'll also go through how we can extrapolate this to not just Tom Brady, but every single quarterback that's in the league right now, and grab all that data all in one nice place. Thanks for watching. Make sure again to like and subscribe. Follow Better Picks on Instagram. Check out our Patreon if you're interested in getting predictions early. And until next time, I'll see ya.